Ciao, bonjour, bienvenidos, benvenuti, welcome to the Music Polyglot channel. This being the Music Polyglot channel, you'll find good quality subtitles down there. This is our third video on the economics of music, and today we're going to discuss whether music can actually be worth anything other than zero in the digital age. In our previous video, we talked about how the price of music went from whatever the price of a vinyl, CD or cassette tape used to be to essentially zero today thanks to streaming. We also talked about how the price of music is not the same as the value of music and how one may affect the other. If you missed that video, here's a link so you can open a new tab and watch it later. So first, we need to talk about what it is that we actually pay for when we say that we buy music. Up until the advent of commercially available recordings, which is really the late 19th century, if you wanted to experience music, you had to be there when it happened. If you were lucky enough to know someone who played an instrument, or say the locals got together to jam at your local tavern, or you were invited to a Porsche party where there was music playing, that was one way. If you were lucky enough to play an instrument yourself, that was another way. You could buy sheet music and play. But if you wanted to choose the music you listened to, you paid to attend a concert, opera, or a soiree where music was playing. A bit like going to a restaurant. You can eat at home or with friends, and it's lovely. But if you want professional food and you want to control what it is that you are eating, you pay the price at a restaurant. Much like restaurant dining, though, music was a bit of a luxury back then. A cursory look at European opera houses will quickly reveal this fact with a look at their royal, presidential, or imperial boxes. Fast forward to the 20th century, technology has enabled us to encapsulate a performance onto a physical medium, say a disc, which allows us to replicate the performance anytime we want. Sure, the performer isn't actually there and we're not actually in a theatre, but the experience is good enough to be worth the price of the disc, which is in any case lower than the price of a concert ticket. With the advent of the radio, you could still have the experience of music for free, but then again, if you wanted to control the music you listened to, that still had a price, and a whole industry emerged to capture the gains, the recording industry. You could say that the recording industry revolved really around a proxy for the real music experience, which is being there when music happens. You can point at the fact that we still, today, pay considerably more for the privilege of being at a concert than we would pay for a recording of any kind, now or 30 years ago. Then the internet threw the final punch. Technology is deflationary, so as soon as music became digital, it became almost instantly replicable, so no longer scarce. Therefore, its price went to zero. Why would you pay for something that you could instantly replicate with one click? The record industry has been on a death spiral ever since, and many attempts have been made to try and sell music again. Selling downloads, later selling subscriptions to streaming platforms like Spotify, but they've all been vain. People are rational enough to not want to pay for something that they can get for free. On the first video of this series, we talked about how Spotify still hasn't turned a profit. It loses money year after year, perhaps showing that trying to sell music may not really be a viable business idea anymore. And this is not because no one values music enough these days for them to pay for it. It's because it's not scarce. You can make your own copy with a couple of clicks. Now, on our previous video, we mentioned Radiohead and their In Rainbows experiment. For those who don't know, in 2007, Radiohead released their album In Rainbows, which is fantastic, by the way, perhaps their best, some might say. So the band decided that they were going to release it digitally first, and that they were going to let people pay whatever they chose for it. The plan was to release it digitally first and run this little experiment to then terminate the experiment when the physical copies became available a couple of months later. The band and everyone involved are very secretive about the numbers, which in itself says a lot, because if it had been a resounding success and everyone would have paid voluntarily a little something for their copy, they probably would have been a lot more vocal about it, and many more bands would have replicated the model. Instead, no one replicated the model, and Radiohead never spoke openly about the numbers. You have to dig really deep to find that actually between 50 and 60% of people who downloaded the album chose to pay zero. So more than half. And we're talking about people who value Radiohead's music, who made the effort to seek out the new album. We also learned that even more people downloaded the album for free on BitTorrent than from the official site. So really, it's safe to assume that over 2/3 of people who value Radiohead's music enough to want a copy of their new album thought that the fair price was zero and chose not to pay. Now here's the deal. Those people are right. You can't charge for something that has no scarcity, even if people value it. Just like you can't charge for air, even if it's the most valuable thing there is. The market being the market, it adapted, and musicians realized that they would never be able to sell replicable music files anymore. So recordings became a marketing tool to sell other scarce things, like concert tickets, merch, limited editions, limited being the key word. Any model that relies on selling digital music files is bound to fail, as rational people won't pay for something they can get for free. Is this a good thing? Well, let's say that if recordings have gone from being the main product to being a marketing tool, then the budgets assigned are not going to be the same, are they? This is an argument that we sort of hinted at on our last video. We said that the best musicians in the world are alive and active today. The best musicians the world has ever seen. You see them every day on YouTube and Instagram, and therefore we should have an unbelievable outflow of the most amazing music, month after month after month after month. But we don't seem to. Perhaps that's because good music is expensive to produce, and those budgets are simply not available anymore. It doesn't make any sense at all to spend $1 million making a product that has to be free in the end, does it? A cynic might say that we get what we pay for. My final question to you is, so is this it? Is music's final price zero? Are artists damned to never be able to sell their music again? Let me know what you think in the comments below. On our next video, we'll talk about NFTs, what they are and how they might, in the not too distant future, offer a way to reintroduce scarcity to music, perhaps raising its price again, and perhaps changing the way we interact with a recording and artists forever. If you liked the discussion, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell icon so that YouTube notifies you when a new video comes up. Thank you for staying till the end, and see you next time. Hasta la prossima, arrivederci, au revoir.